Girls, I need you to accept one reality, honey. Staying alone is not bad. And I know sometimes being alone can feel scary. You see everyone around you with their friend groups. You see girls going out together, posting pictures together, laughing together. And suddenly you're sitting there wondering, why don't I have that? Why am I always alone? Should I just text that person again? Should I go back to that friendship? Maybe I should just tolerate it. At least I won't be alone. And girl, no.
I need you to stop thinking like that. Because the moment you become afraid of being alone is the moment you become willing to accept things that are not good for you. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because sometimes the biggest glow up isn't getting more people around you. Sometimes it's becoming so comfortable with yourself that you no longer need to keep the wrong people around just because you're scared of having nobody. Let's be honest, girls. A lot of us don't actually want certain people in our lives. We just don't want to lose them. And there's a huge difference. You might know that a friendship is draining you. You might know that every time you talk to this person, you feel exhausted. You might know that they don't genuinely support you. Maybe they only talk to you when they need something. Maybe they constantly make you question yourself. Maybe you don't even feel like yourself when you're around them anymore. But instead of walking away, you stay.
And why? Because you're scared. Scared that if you leave, you'll have nobody. Scared that you'll eat lunch alone. Scared that you'll have no one to text. Scared that people will ask, "Where are your friends?" And honey, why are you more afraid of being alone than being unhappy? Think about that. You're willing to keep someone in your life who makes you feel lonely just because you're afraid to actually be alone. Do you see how crazy that is?
You can literally be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. And sometimes, being alone in your room with your own thoughts is actually more peaceful than sitting at a table full of people who don't truly care about you. So please don't confuse having people around you with having the right people around you. They're not the same thing.
And this doesn't only happen with friendships. Sometimes we do this with situations too. We stay somewhere we don't want to be because we're afraid of what happens after we leave. We keep saying yes when we want to say no. We keep accepting the bare minimum because we're scared that if we ask for more, we'll end up with nothing. And slowly, we start lowering our standards just to avoid feeling lonely. You don't need to accept the wrong thing just because you're afraid there might be nothing else. Nothing is better than something that constantly destroys your peace. Listen again. Nothing is better than something that destroys your peace. Because when you learn to enjoy your own company, you stop making desperate decisions. You stop thinking, at least I have someone. And you start asking, is this person actually good for me? That's a completely different mindset.
And I think this is where being alone becomes powerful. Because when you spend enough time by yourself, you start getting to know yourself. Not the version of you that exists around your friends. Not the version of you that changes depending on who's in the room. Not the version of you that's constantly trying to fit in. I'm talking about you. What do you actually like? What makes you happy? What are your values? What do you want your life to look like? What kind of people do you actually want around you? When you spend time alone, you finally get the chance to hear your own thoughts. And honestly, girls, I think that's something a lot of us avoid. Because silence can be uncomfortable. When you're constantly surrounded by people, constantly texting, constantly scrolling, constantly looking for something to distract yourself, you don't have to sit with yourself. But when you're alone, you have no choice but to meet yourself. And at first, that can feel uncomfortable. But eventually, it becomes peaceful. You start realizing, wait, I actually like spending time with myself. You start taking yourself out. You go shopping alone. You sit in a cafe alone. You watch a movie alone. You take yourself on walks. You start journaling. You start working on yourself. You start creating a life that doesn't depend on who is available to hang out with you. And suddenly, being alone doesn't feel like punishment anymore. It feels like freedom.
So, girls, if you're in a season of your life where you're spending more time alone, please don't immediately assume something is wrong with you. Maybe this is your season to reconnect with yourself. Maybe this is your season to stop chasing people. Maybe this is your season to finally learn who you are when nobody else is influencing you. Use this time. Read that book you've been putting off. Start that hobby. Take yourself somewhere nice. Go for a walk without needing someone beside you. Take care of your body. Build a life that feels good even when nobody is watching. Because one day, you're going to look back and realize the time you thought you were alone was actually the time you were becoming yourself. And honey, I want you to remember this. Never stay somewhere just because you're afraid of where you'll go next. Never hold on to people who constantly hurt you just because you're scared nobody else will come along. Never convince yourself that loneliness is worse than losing your peace. Because sometimes being alone is temporary, but staying with the wrong people can change the way you see yourself. It can make you question your worth. It can make you forget your standards. It can make you believe that you have to accept less just to have someone. And girl, you don't. You don't have to accept less. You don't have to beg for friendship. You don't have to chase people who don't choose you. You don't have to keep shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that no longer feel right. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to spend time alone. And most importantly, you are allowed to choose yourself. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't immediately think, nobody wants me. Instead, tell yourself, maybe this is the time I finally get to know me. Because when you become comfortable being alone, you stop accepting anything just to avoid loneliness. You stop choosing people out of fear. You stop settling for situations that drain you. And you start choosing from a place of self-respect. And honestly, girls, that's when you become unstoppable. Because you no longer need someone to complete your life. You are already building a life you love. And the people who enter it, they become additions to your happiness, not the reason for it. So yes, honey, staying alone is not bad. Being alone can be peaceful. Being alone can be healing. Being alone can be the beginning of your biggest transformation. Just promise yourself one thing. Never choose the wrong people just because you're afraid of being alone. Because the moment you stop fearing your own company is the moment you finally become free.